Football is called a game of inches, but right now, for the Las Vegas Raiders, it feels more like a game of details. The kind of details you catch only if you pause the film, rewind it twice, and ask yourself, was that a missed block, a blown coverage, or maybe a spark of something that could turn into a strength? The past week has given us more than enough material to break down. An offensive line under the microscope, linebackers making unexpected cases for starting jobs, defensive linemen flashing high-end traits, a shuffle at safety, battles at wide receiver, national quarterback rankings that make you scratch your head, and even a re-evaluation of a rookie guard everyone's already trying to write off. So let's go deep. Not just box score, deep. I'm talking trench level, scheme level. Why did he step left instead of right deep? Because when you zoom in on the small stuff, you start to see the bigger picture of what this Raiders team could become. What's up, Raiders fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Raiders. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Raiders. 2 days after their preseason opener against the Seahawks, all eyes were on the Raiders' offensive line, and the reviews were mixed at best. The Raiders played it painfully vanilla. No pre-snap motion, no formation disguise, no personnel swaps to create mismatches. Shotgun on nearly every snap, straight-up zone runs, and the same basic alignment over and over. That's by design in preseason. Pete Carroll even said so, but the downside is obvious. If the defense knows exactly what's coming, you better be able to move bodies off the ball, and that's where the Raiders didn't deliver. DJ Glaze, one of the players fans were hoping to see take a step forward, had trouble creating push, even against backup defensive ends. On one early snap, Ashton Gentry's first carry, Glaze gets beat inside and loses the rep entirely. That's one of 2 clear losses he had on tape. But in a game where your role is to establish dominance, that's enough to stand out. Jordan Meredith, adjusting to the center position, also struggled to generate movement. At center, you have the power to open cutback lanes if the tackle's block stalls. You can widen the gap yourself. But in this game, there was no movement at tackle, no movement at center, and no daylight for the back. Even Thayer Munford, filling in, not the starter Colton Miller, would make contact with his man, but failed to displace him. Zone schemes rely on that front side tackle creating lateral space. Without it, the run collapses before it starts. Here's where the nuance matters. This wasn't the full starting unit. Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, and the rest of the first 5 played a total of 4 snaps together. That's nothing. In real games, with motions, misdirection, and varied formations, the picture will change, but the lack of raw movement is still a concern. If you're a Raiders fan wondering when to panic, don't yet. The real evaluation will be in the joint practices and preseason game against the 49ers, when the starters get extended snap. That's the point to overreact. The days after the Seahawks game brought their own drama. A tweet suggested Jackson Powers Johnson was running with the second team, replaced at right guard by Antonio Mafi. That sent fans into speculation mode. Is JPJ in the doghouse? Turns out it wasn't performance, it was injury. JPJ has a rib issue, likely from the game, tried to practice through it, but was sidelined early. Alex Kappa also has a rib injury, which is either a strange coincidence or the Raiders need to start bubble wrapping their interior linemen. With both out, Mafi took first team reps. And here's the thing, he looked good. In the game, he was dominating against 3rd and 4th string defenders, which is exactly what a quality backup should do. He's now ahead of Thayer Munford in the next man up pecking order. Pete Carroll isn't rushing to lock in a starting 5. His words, "It will declare when it declares." That means Jordan Meredith versus Alex Kappa at center or right guard is still up in the air, and they're willing to let that battle run right up to or even into the regular season. If the offensive line left us with questions, the front 7 gave us some answers and some surprises. The biggest headline? Jamal Adams. Yes, the safety, looking like one of the Raiders' most impactful linebackers. Pete Carroll didn't ask if he wanted to switch. He told him, Adams brings sideline to sideline speed and reads plays at an elite level. Against Seattle's heavy outside zone, he was free to chase and attack without taking on interior linemen. Perfect for his skill set. Will that hold up against teams that run downhill power? That's the question. Inside, runs demand you take on guards and centers head up. Adams might not win those matchups consistently, but in today's NFL, with so many zone concepts, his fit is intriguing. Jermaine Pratt also impressed. Fluid in coverage, gaining depth in zone drops, and showing the awareness you want in a 3-down linebacker. Devin White had flashes, but also shared blame with Ellendon Roberts for a blown coverage that could have gone for a touchdown. Roberts, frankly, struggled Missed tackles, poor coverage decisions, and the telling detail. When the Raiders went to nickel, he came off the field, while Pratt and White stayed in. That's a clear signal from the coaching staff. One of the more exciting developments was Tonka Hemingway getting first-team reps in practice. And he earned them. On tape, Hemingway's pass rush stood out for one reason. He uses a hesitation move. That's when you fake inside, fake outside, and keep the blocker guessing before committing. It's a small thing, but it's the difference between linemen who get sacks and those who don't. Compare that to Tyree Wilson. All bull rush, no changeup. Hemingway mixes in shoulder fakes, swipes, even a spin move he used in college. On one snap against Seattle, he beat the guard clean with a hesi to swipe, forced the QB to scramble, and showed the kind of movement you can build a career on. Thomas Booker is also in the mix, faster off the ball than Hemingway, disruptive with quickness, but without the same developed pass rush toolkit. If Hemingway can refine his hands and counters, he could lock down a starting spot next to Adam Butler. The Raiders didn't just tinker in the trenches. They made a notable move in the secondary, signing veteran safety Terrell Edmunds. At 6 feet 1 inch, 220 pounds, with years of starting experience, Edmunds brings size, range, and a physical profile that fits Pete Carroll's mold. Why now? Simple, depth concern. Jeremy Chin and Thomas Harper are the top safeties. But behind them, Isaiah Polamau is still adjusting to free safety, and Chris Smith's tape against Seattle was rough. Bad angles, late reactions, and missed opportunity. With Lonnie Johnson injured, the safety room needed an adult in the room. Edmunds is that. The Raiders also brought in wide receiver Marquez Callaway, releasing Seth Williams and another depth player. Callaway's a known quantity, a capable wide receiver 3 or 4 with special teams value. But the real intrigue is Shedrick Jackson, who caught 4 passes for 76 yards and a touchdown against Seattle. Add in a called back 14-yard grab, dubious OPI, and he's flirting with a 90-yard day. Most of his production came from backup QB Cam Miller, which might just be a chemistry thing. Jackson probably runs with the same lower units in practice. Still, his route running was sharp, his release is clean, and he showed enough vertical speed to win deep on a sluggo route for the score. Finally, let's address Caleb Rogers. Some media outlets listed him as a loser from the preseason open. After watching every snap, I don't see it. Yes, his first play was bad. Missed block. RB tackled in the back. Yes, he allowed one big hit on the QB, but outside of those, he held up well for a rookie's first NFL action. This is where preseason matters. Not for the scoreboard, but for the snapshots. Each rep, each depth chart shuffle, each signing tells you something about how the Raiders see themselves and where they're headed. Will the offensive line's lack of movement be a preseason quirk or a regular season problem? Can Jamal Adams thrive full-time at linebacker? Is Tonka Hemingway on the verge of a breakout? Can Shedrick Jackson or Caleb Rogers fight their way into the 53rd? We'll start getting real answers when the starters face the 49ers, and that's when the game of inches turns into a game of decisions. Because for the 2025 Raiders, the right decisions in August could be the difference between a playoff run and another year of almost.